Despite their deep-rooted historical and cultural heritage, the Sami have suffered generations of systemic oppression, deprivation of their rights, and cultural erosion. Their ancestral lands stretch across northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia, yet they have long faced marginalization. Historically, dominant societies in these regions viewed them as outsiders, even though the Sami had inhabited these territories long before the establishment of national borders and states that later sought to absorb their land. As these nation-states expanded over time, Sami communities bore the brunt of this growth, with their lands frequently taken without their consent. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, nationalist movements in Scandinavia aimed to create unified and culturally homogeneous nations. The Sami, with their unique languages, traditions, and reindeer herding lifestyle, were seen as incompatible with this vision. Efforts to integrate or assimilate them led to policies designed to systematically erode their cultural identity. Language, a fundamental pillar of any culture, became a primary target, with authorities enforcing measures to suppress the Sami's native tongues. Starting in the 1800s, Scandinavian governments imposed assimilation policies, particularly within the education system. Sami children were forcibly taken from their families and placed in boarding schools where speaking their mother tongue was strictly prohibited. Severe punishments, both physical and psychological, were inflicted upon those who attempted to use their language, instilling deep-seated fear and shame that discouraged many from preserving their linguistic heritage. The origins of the Sami people trace back to the final stages of the Ice Age, marking the beginning of their remarkable journey. As the glaciers retreated, their ancestors followed, adapting to one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth, the tundra of Fennoscandia. This migration was not a singular event, but rather a gradual movement dictated by changing climatic conditions. Around 9,500 BC, as the Ice Age drew to a close, Europe underwent a dramatic transformation. Massive ice sheets receded, unveiling a rugged terrain filled with dense forests, shimmering rivers, and rocky coastlines battered by relentless winds. The ancestors of the Sami ventured into this challenging landscape, likely in pursuit of reindeer and other game that were crucial to their survival. These animals were more than mere sustenance. They were integral to their way of life, influencing their tools, customs, and societal structures. The Fennoscandian Peninsula, where the Sami eventually established their distinct cultural identity, was far from an easy place to inhabit. Even after the ice had melted away, much of the land remained swampy. The winters were long and severe, and thick forests created natural obstacles that limited both survival and cultural interaction. This geographical isolation played a critical role in shaping the genetic and cultural uniqueness of the Sami people. Archaeological evidence connects these early settlers to Mesolithic hunter-gatherers who lived in constant negotiation with the harsh Arctic environment. Their ability to endure relied on a deep understanding of seasonal migrations, the efficient use of scarce Arctic resources, and the formation of close-knit communities capable of withstanding extreme conditions. Yet, what makes their history particularly extraordinary is not just their ability to adapt, but also their remarkable continuity. Unlike many ancient societies that were gradually assimilated by later waves of agricultural settlers, the Sami maintained their semi-nomadic existence and reindeer herding traditions, an enduring cultural hallmark. Their profound connection to nature allowed them to resist the homogenizing influence of Bronze and Iron Age agriculturalists, who introduced farming to Scandinavia thousands of years later. The earliest traces of human habitation in Finland date back to approximately 9,000 BC, following the retreat of ice sheets after the last glacial maximum. In this early period, the region was home to hunter-gatherer communities. However, the direct ancestors of today's Sami people emerged through a complex process of genetic admixture among various populations that occurred at a much later stage. A key piece of evidence in unraveling this history comes from ancient DNA analysis of remains found at Boloi Olenio Osto, a burial site on the Kola Peninsula, dating back roughly 3,500 years. These individuals exhibited a distinct genetic profile, which included a substantial Siberian genetic component, an element that persists in modern Sami populations. This Siberian ancestry arrived in northern Europe no later than 3,500 years ago, marking one of the earliest known introductions of East Asian-related genetic material into the region. The genetic markers found in the Boloi Olenio Osto individuals are particularly revealing. Their mitochondrial DNA haplogroups, Z1, C4, and D4, are widely observed in present-day Siberian populations. Furthermore, their Y chromosomal haplogroup, N1C, 1A, 1A, represents the earliest known occurrence of this lineage in Fennoscandia, and is today the predominant paternal marker among many northeastern European groups, especially among certain linguistic communities. In addition to these genetic markers, the ancient individuals possess specific genetic traits linked to physical adaptations. They carried the derived allele of the ED gene, a variant found at high frequencies in East Asian and Native American populations, which is associated with characteristics like hair structure and tooth shape. Moreover, they exhibited genetic variants in the FADS genes, which are tied to adaptations for processing diets rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids. Fast-forwarding to the Iron Age, ancient DNA findings from the Leivonluoto site in western Finland provide vital clues about the geographic distribution and movement of Sami populations. The analysis revealed that during this period, individuals with genetic similarities to modern Sami inhabited areas significantly farther south than the present-day Sami territories. This discovery aligns with linguistic and historical evidence, indicating that Sami languages were once spoken across a much wider area of Finland. The results are particularly striking, as most individuals from this site showed a closer genetic relationship to modern Sami than to contemporary Finns. This suggests that regions now primarily inhabited by Finnish speakers were once home to a Sami-related population. Additionally, historical records support this, indicating that Sami communities lived in central Finland's parishes as recently as the 1500s. The genetic shift in Finland's population appears to have resulted from a gradual process of admixture and demographic replacement. Early Finnish-speaking groups, likely migrating from the south, particularly from the area of modern Estonia, began intermixing with and eventually surpassing the previously dominant Sami populations in various regions. This transition was accompanied by linguistic changes, as Finnish gradually supplanted Sami languages in many central and southern parts of the country. The genetic heritage of the Sami remains distinct, largely due to rare genetic markers that differentiate them from both other Europeans and their Scandinavian neighbors. A defining element of this uniqueness is mitochondrial DNA haplogroup UST5B1, which researchers have identified as a direct link to the ancient hunter-gatherers who once roamed the forests and tundras of prehistoric Europe during the Mesolithic era. To grasp the significance of this lineage, consider that haplogroup U5b itself is one of Europe's oldest mtDNA haplogroups, tracing back tens of thousands of years. It serves as a genetic bridge connecting the Sami not only to early Europeans, but also to the ecological landscapes of post-Ice Age Europe. The subclade U5b1 is even more specific, forming a genetic hallmark of the Sami people. The presence of U5b1 in Sami populations provides a compelling narrative of continuity. While most of Europe experienced profound genetic changes due to waves of migration and agricultural expansion from the Near East, followed by subsequent invasions, the Sami remained relatively isolated in the northernmost parts of Fennoscandia. This genetic isolation helped preserve their distinctive mtDNA lineage, supported by the presence of the so-called Sami motif, a unique pattern of mutations in their mitochondrial DNA. Research shows that this motif appears in about a third of the Sami population, but is exceptionally rare elsewhere. Rather than being a mere genetic anomaly, this motif offers a rare glimpse into the Sami's Ice Age ancestry. It indicates that their forebears were part of an extremely early migration into Europe and that they successfully adapted to the Arctic's extreme conditions, which were less affected by the agricultural transformations that reshaped the southern regions. Genetic research has linked U5B1 predominantly to northern Europe and the eastern Baltic, underscoring the deep historical roots of the Sami in these cold, rugged territories. The paternal lineage of the Sami adds another layer of complexity to this genetic story. While their Y chromosome haplogroups include some that are shared with neighboring populations, such as N1C, which suggests a connection to Siberian ancestry, it is their maternal DNA that provides the strongest evidence of their unique and ancient heritage. This distinction gives geneticists a powerful tool for reconstructing not only the origins of the Sami, but also how they managed to survive and adapt to one of the world's most challenging environments for thousands of years. For millennia, the Sami people have called the northern reaches of Fennoscandia home, their icy landscapes holding a deep connection to an ancient Siberian past. A key link to this heritage is the Y chromosome haplogroup N1C, a genetic marker prominently found among Sami men. Passed down from father to son, haplogroups like N1C serve as a genetic beacon of paternal ancestry. While N1C is widespread across northern Asia and Siberia, it appears at distinct frequencies among Finno-Ugric-speaking peoples in Europe, including the Finnish and Sami populations. This marker, which traces its origins to Siberian migrations thousands of years ago, provides crucial evidence of ancient population movements across the north. Researchers regard haplogroup N1C as a genetic fossil, shedding light on migrations that occurred during the Neolithic era or earlier. It is believed that carriers of this lineage journeyed westward, moving across Siberia before eventually settling in northern Europe. For the ancestors of the Sami, this migration likely intersected with indigenous European hunter-gatherer communities, resulting in a unique fusion of genetic legacies. Although the Sami share this marker with other Finno-Ugric and Siberian populations, the frequency and distinct nature of their N1C lineage make them stand apart. Unlike their Scandinavian neighbors, whose Y chromosomal haplogroups often link them to Central and Western Europe, the Sami exhibit a paternal heritage that is strongly rooted in the East. This suggests that they occupied a crucial genetic and cultural crossroads, preserving their Siberian ties while simultaneously adopting traits from ancient European populations. One of their most remarkable adaptations is their ability to withstand the extreme cold of the Arctic. Studies indicate that specific genetic variations in the Sami population help regulate body heat production. A key factor in this adaptation lies in fat metabolism. Unlike populations in warmer regions who rely more on carbohydrates, the Sami thrive on a diet high in omega-3 fatty acids from fish and reindeer. These fatty acids not only provide essential energy for generating heat, but also support cardiovascular health, a critical advantage in a climate that places immense physical stress on the body. Beyond metabolism, the Sami exhibit an extraordinary physiological ability to retain warmth. They possess higher concentrations of brown fat, a specialized tissue that burns calories to generate heat, particularly in cold environments. This trait may explain why they endure sub-zero temperatures with relative ease compared to populations from more temperate regions. Yet, survival in the Arctic demands more than just heat regulation. It requires an ability to adapt to extreme dietary fluctuations. The Sami's ancestral diet was dictated by seasonal scarcity, which led to genetic modifications that improved their ability to process proteins and fats. For example, mutations in the FADS1 and FADS2 genes, which regulate essential fatty acid synthesis, are more prevalent among the Sami, allowing them to efficiently metabolize a high-fat diet. These biological adaptations are closely tied to their cultural traditions. Their semi-nomadic way of life, centered around reindeer herding, reflects a deep knowledge of the environment and resource management. Reindeer provided not only food, but also fur for clothing and sinew for tools, reinforcing a sustainable approach to survival. Additionally, fishing in the cold waters of northern Scandinavia ensured a steady source of nutrient-rich fish, further linking their genetic adaptations to their way of life. Genetically, the Sami are distinct from Norwegians and Swedes, whose ancestry is predominantly influenced by Central and Western European lineages. While Scandinavian populations have been shaped by Viking-era migrations and agricultural expansions, the Sami genetic profile tells a much older story. As previously noted, their mitochondrial DNA is dominated by haplogroups U5, BI1, and V, ancient markers that root them firmly in Europe's Mesolithic past. These maternal lineages are largely absent in their Scandinavian neighbors, reinforcing the deep historical separation between these groups. The Sami language, part of the Finno-Ugric linguistic family, is more than just a means of communication. It serves as a living record of their heritage. Alongside Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian, it stands as a testament to the ancient migrations that brought Finno-Ugric speakers into Europe thousands of years ago. This linguistic connection links the Sami to distant populations, despite the vast geographical distances separating them. While Finnish and Sami have evolved in parallel, their shared Uralic roots indicate a time when their ancestors may have occupied overlapping territories, sharing cultural traditions and survival strategies. The persistence of their language in the face of historical adversity is remarkable. Despite centuries of colonization and efforts to suppress their culture, the Sami language continues to be spoken, with active efforts underway to preserve its legacy. This endurance is particularly significant given the dominance of Scandinavian languages in the regions where the Sami reside. Their resilience extends beyond language to their spiritual beliefs, folklore, and deep relationship with the land. Reindeer herding, central to Sami life, is not merely an economic activity, but a fundamental aspect of their identity, reflected in their language, which contains a rich vocabulary specific to reindeer and Arctic survival. The debate over Sami origins is complicated by the interplay of isolation and cultural interchange. The Sami people embody a blend of diverse influences, shaped by historical events that molded their identity over time. Genetic studies indicate that the Sami underwent population bottlenecks, periods when their numbers dramatically declined, leaving only a few lineages to repopulate. Typically, such events reduce genetic diversity. However, in the case of the Sami, these bottlenecks were followed by stabilization and prolonged isolation, allowing them to retain their distinct genetic and cultural characteristics. Acknowledging their historical struggles and supporting efforts to revitalize their culture is not solely the responsibility of the Sami themselves. It is a shared obligation for those who value Indigenous rights and the preservation of a rich, ancient heritage.